So hello everyone, we're back. I'm Scott.
I'm Bernie.
And this little lesson is going to be about how to build a bar clamp out of, well, wood. So again, a bar clamp is just intended to be able to slide and hold a minimum amount of force on something without letting it go. That's all the bar clamp really has to do, is apply some minimal amount of force. And all we're doing is using a little bit of friction from a little sliver of wood, a sliding head glued together, a fixed head glued to the bar. Now, when I first did this, I realized that if you're going to put any kind of real pressure on it, that you might want to have the bar more in the middle so that you've got a little bit more glued together area down here, keeping it from twisting. Because before the glue cured up, these pieces might twist and this little piece here might come out and it wouldn't do its job. So there are two ways to build this. One way with the clamp in the bottom quarter, and one with the clamp, the bar, right in the middle. So, which way do you want to build yours, Bernie? In the middle. You're going to build it in the middle. Well, I'm going to build mine on the end, and we're going to have a race. Now, so if you simply, you guys will be given one functioning clamp, and I recommend that you take a good look at it to see how it's put together, because I'm going to show you how it goes together very quickly. We're going to sit that right there, and we're going to talk about this part first. So this is going to be the fixed end, or the fixed head. It starts off with two pieces of wood, and I've cut these to be roughly the same size. They don't have to be exactly the same size. Again, this is just going together. So all I'm going to do to try and keep these together is I'm going to put a tiny little bit of glue on the edge and stick them together so that they have a little bit of glue holding them together. And then I'm going to move them to another place so that they're not sticking to the parchment. You guys will probably have wax paper, I hope. So I'm just going to stick that together. Now, the next thing you do is you take these spacers. So these spacers are this piece. And all they're going to do is go in between. So you're going to see the inside layer right now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to smear glue on the bottom piece, right there. And I'm going to place a spacer, just like that. It doesn't really matter. I recommend that you do it flush just for practice on one side. Press it together, hold it together. Once you get it, you got it. Now, this is an important part. You want to get rid of the excess glue that is in that groove, because that's where your bar clamp is actually going to slide. So what I do is I take one of the other pieces of wood and I remove it as best I can so that that bar will be able to easily slide through there. Okay, so I've got the beginnings of that clamp head. Push that down a little bit harder. Make sure it's flush. I'm going to hold it for a count of maybe 10 or 15 seconds. So now I want to make sure that the bar can go through. So I'm going to lay a piece over here. Actually, the bar doesn't go through, doesn't slide. It gets glued in there. So actually, I didn't have to remove that glue. So in this case, I'm going to put some glue on there. I'm using this just so that it lies at the same level. I'm going to glue it together. And now in this case, I would recommend that you bring this piece back to be flush to the front, because you want the front of your clamp to be nice and clean so that it's easy to use as a clamp. Now when we take a look at this, you're going to see, when you look at the back, you can clearly see the bottom piece, the bar, the next spacer, another spacer, a gap, and the fourth spacer. 1, 2, 3, 4 spacers. So all you're going to do is put that fourth spacer in. Or in this case, my third. And then the fourth one goes at the top. And there will be a little gap in there. So I put this one up. I want it to be as flush as possible with the end. Now I will take this one and put it as flush as possible at the end, because this is going to be the surface that is used to clamp. Now, I'm going to get way ahead of Barney. You take 2 more pieces to do the other side. Nice and simple. So now I'm going to slather some glue on here, try and get it nice and uniform. Not too heavy, not too light, because this really does have to hold some tension at some point. And I'm now going to place this piece so that it's nice and easy flush. And press it in, nice and hard. Get that glue to get into the pores. Good pressure. I'm going to put the second one down there. I'm going to butt it up against so they're glued together. And now you have the base of your bar clamp essentially glued together. And that is essentially the base of your bar clamp. This should be a relatively flat surface right there. And again, you can clamp it, you can leave it. So all it needs to do is put a little bit of pressure on there and let it dry. So now we'll let that dry. You build the sliding portion the same way that you build the other one, except you don't glue it to the bar. And now I start off the same way. I'm going to put the bottom piece on and glue everything together. I'm going to put some glue. So I'm going to do the top piece. Now this top piece, I want to make sure is relatively flush. Put some glue on there and take and scrape that off a little bit, because that's how I want it. Just like that. So I'm good. Now the bottom, I don't want to be as vicious with glue. I really just want enough. Now Bernie's going to have it a little easier because he's going to have 2 pieces at the bottom to hold it together. If you look closely, you can tell that I got a little bit of glue in that groove. And this time it's important that you do not have any glue in that groove. So you want to get rid of that glue in the groove. And you want to make sure you're not sticking to anything. So everything is kind of stuck together. Now comes the tricky part, is making sure that the clamp will actually do what it needs to. So this should be relatively solid. So we've decided that this is the bottom part here. So I'm going to lay that in the groove. Now, how do we make it act like a clamp? We have to have one of these pieces in there. So now I'm going to lay that piece in there a certain distance, and my next piece gets glued on an angle. So we put this piece down, and we really don't want it to be too much glue. We want this to be absolute minimum because we do not want to glue to either piece. So we slide that in, and it's on an angle that matches up with the angle, and you want to allow yourself some space to actually get it in. And you put that in there like that, and then you slip this out of the way so it doesn't get glued together. And you put some pressure on it, and that should be good. and then you take the last one and that reinforces that piece. So here you can be a little bit more liberal with the glue. And again, you don't want it to come past the front of the head. Press that down nice and tight, and it should be pretty clear that you've got a space right here where either one of these little guys can fit in there. This one is actually the one that it's designed for. This one is in case you lose it. Once they're all glued down good and tight, you're generally pretty good. So now you can take that piece out of the way, and then we start taking the other two pieces. And since this side is the one we want to make head with, put that one there nice and neat. And we don't care that the back looks kind of messy. It's not going to be making contact with anything. And then when you get done, you end up with something that looks about like that. And you should clearly be able to see the slot where we're going to have the wedge and the bar go. When you look at it, you got to make sure you get this right. This will go on here like this. And then you simply stick your wedge in. And now you've got it. Now what you don't want to do is start playing with this with the wedge until your glue has truly cured, which was going to be more than an hour. That's why I have the other ones with me, so that we can use them without worry. But this one will go with that. That's my spare. That's the bar. And the bar clamp is done. And Bernie's going to finish his up. It's going to look slightly different. And make them a bridge by connecting them across. And that's the purpose of the beam clamp, is to hold it together upright so that the glue can cure.